So, I think I've got a record of speeding tickets in New Jersey. And I actually don't really care if I get speeding tickets in New Jersey. If the cop comes to me, he gives me, pulls me over, do you know why I pulled you over, sir? I go, yes, I was speeding. Give me the ticket. But when I was younger, I was dumber because I didn't know that New Jersey state law didn't apply to New York. And it doesn't matter if he threatened me with points, big bad cop, it wouldn't really affect me. But the first time I got a speeding ticket, put this up there, when I was like 18, I thought I was going to go to jail. I was in New Jersey Turnpike, they pulled me over. And let me tell you, when the sirens went on, I started to intercede. Jesus. And, closed my eyes, and I just started to pray, and I said, oh, God, I can't get this ticket. I can't barely afford gas. I can't pay for this ticket. God, I'm doing your work. I'm going to church. Get me out of this ticket in Jesus. And I bind the enemy. I was just trying to bring out anything possible that, the enemy could, because, whatever. The speeding ticket is not because I was speeding. It was the devil. So in this crisis, mini crisis, I started praying, and the cop came and said, young man, why are you speeding? I'm like, I'm going to church. I'm a youth pastor. And then the cop goes, oh, you're lucky I'm a big fan of church. I'm going to give you a warning. And I said, oh, thank you, officer. And as soon as he pulled off, I just started to really complain about this cop. I'm like, what is this cop doing? Doesn't this cop have anything better to do with his life than pull over youth pastors going to church? What a loser. And I just forgot at that moment that, I don't go, oh, Lord, thank you for helping me, avoid my own stupidity. Lord, or gave praise. I was just, I just started complaining about the cop. And I gave the cop a fake out dirty look. You know what that is? When he's not looking, you give him one like this. And the cop left. And, I think this picture is humorous, but in reality, it's very painful because it paints a picture in the same way. I think history shows us empirically that all of us that are humanity has an empirical record of turning to God in crisis. And it doesn't matter if you're not in relationship with Jesus Christ, you haven't surrendered your life to Jesus Christ yet, or you're trying to discover that, or if you've been following Christ all this time, history shows us that in times of crisis, when things are out of our control, we turn to God, even if we don't believe in God. People say, oh my God, oh God. And it's not in a good way, but people cry out his name in crisis. In 9/11, statistically speaking, after the day of 9/11, that weekend, churches that Sunday had record attendance for the first 4 weeks of that month. Churches that had 1,000 had 2,000, and the pastor's like, what's going on? Well, people were kind of afraid that they might die the next day. It was a crisis. And after 4 weeks, the church was all pumped up. All the churches in the city were pumped up. And after 4 weeks, suddenly something strange started happening. All those new members, excited ones that really earnestly prayed, were gone. Poof, they disappeared. It's human, whether you're following Christ or not, to turn to God when you really have no choice. You have nothing else to turn to. And it's, I bet you there's many people here and many people watching, you made vows to God in the moment of crisis, but you never kept them. Oh God, if you get me out of this situation, I will follow you for the rest of my life. And then somehow after the turbulence or the crisis is averted, what happens? You forgot about it. Like what you ate for lunch 2 days ago. You forgot about it. It totally leaves your memory. It's easy to turn to God in crisis. Adversity, it's easy to turn to God. What's hard is turning to God in times of what? Prosperity. Or when things are not falling off, the cliff. And things are not breaking apart. When things are okay. The Bible tells us on many different occasions that People don't turn to God in times of prosperity. People don't turn to God when things are going well. But that's a problem, right? Because usually, I don't know about you, but I don't like friends that like me when they're about to die or they need something from me. I want friends that like me when I'm just me and they don't need anything from me, right? But there's this superficiality of humanity that only wants to use God and not be in relationship with Him. And I think today's that's something that the parable of the banquet really does address, and I saved the best for last. I love this part of the parable of Luke 14. And so let's talk about this, how we can have a relationship with God when things are just okay and not falling apart. So let's go back to the parable of the Great Banquet. Jesus replied, a certain man was what? Preparing a great banquet and invited many guests. At the time of the banquet, he sent his servants to tell those who have not been invited, come, for everything is now ready. But now look at this, verse 18, I want you to catch this. But they all began to make excuses. Still another said, I just got, so I can't. We did two other excuses which were really dumb. And in your time, you can look at the other previous verses. But I want to focus on this excuse because I think this excuse is very interesting. Because it's legitimate. It can be anyway, if you've ever been in a relationship. But they all begin to make excuses, right? Now, I want you to catch something we're going to look at later on. But they all began to make excuses, meaning this is something you have to understand about the passage. What you have to understand with the passage is that they were not aware of this banquet. They already gave in a consent that they would come. That's why the passage says when the banquet was what? Ready. They told their friends to what? Start coming. So this is something they already committed to. But they totally disregarded because they were full of themselves. Now, the other two ones were sort of really retarded, so we won't go into them today. But let's talk about this one. But they all begin to make excuses. Another said, I just got, so I can't come. I could think of a couple of good reasons why a married couple can't make something. I know plenty of experiences when couples were MIA into parties or events. Sometimes they're bad ones. Sometimes they're good ones. But let's talk about if the marriage or the relationship was going well. They were busy, But if you keep reading, verse 21, I want to do a parallel here. The servant came back and reported what? This to his master, that the owner of the house became angry and ordered what? His servants to into the streets, in the alleys in the town, and bring what? The crippled, the blind, and the lame. Sir, the servant said, what you ordered has been, but there's still room. Okay, so the question is, how come the needy said, hey, I have something better to do. No, I can't come. I'm poor. I have nothing to do, so I can't come. They had no excuse to give, right? So why did the needy come and the couple didn't? Well, it's real simple. It's real logical. The couple didn't come because they were full. The needy came because they were hungry. It was really about food. That's why he's speaking to me. Now, the couple was full, but full of what? Well, I would say full of, what? But they were full of love because the relationship was going well, this one. And they were making hot, sweaty love. Leather and everything. Let's not go there. Hot, sweaty, awesome love. Because they were just married. So the relationship was going well. So why they said they couldn't come was because they were busy, occupied, enjoying each other. That happens in marriage once in a while. It happens once in a while. So, and you go, well, that's a good excuse. No, it's not a good excuse. Some people are like, yes, it is. It's not a good excuse because They were full of love, but they were full of love for only one another. They made it about who? Them. They were full of themselves. See, just because you're full of something doesn't mean you have to take the joy from others. And that's what happens when you're full of yourself. You take the joy from others. You steal joy from others. You crash the pleasure of others because you're into yourself. So, in the end of the day, they made it about themselves and not their friends. Why? Because they were good. They weren't hungry. They were fine. It's like when you offer something, out of sincerity to someone of something you cooked and they're in your house and you're like, here, and the person goes, no, thank you. I want to punch them in the face. No, thank you. Why no, thank you? I ate something before I came here. I'm like, what, are you stupid? If you come into my house, don't be eating anything before you come. Except some people eat before you come, please. You know what I'm saying? It's rude. It's very self-exalting. I'm good. Shut up. And why they didn't want to come to the banquet is because they were full. They were full of life, full of love, full of themselves. So they totally neglected their friend. I remember one time I went to AC. No, not to gamble, but to pick someone up that were there for days. I must be honest with you and sincere that the reason why I went there was partially out of mission and partially out of my own pleasure. I knew that this person would have a black card, which means in the Borgata, they would have this, the buffet of Atlantic City. These buffets, I heard, were legendary. They have everything. Because if you want people to gamble and waste their money and lose their life, I mean, come on, you should at least feed them good food. And, so I was motivated partially by mission and partially by self-fulfilling mission. And so I decided before I went, I said, honey, we're going to AC because we have to. He's over there. We got to go get him. It's for the glory of God. Inside my heart, of course, there was a sense of, when I find him, I will directly go to the buffet. But so I decided not to eat anything. So me, Anmin, and Anmin went self-fulfilling as well. Because I told him the vision. And he was like, yo, let's go. And so we were in the car. And on the way to 2-hour drive, because I didn't eat anything, you know how I get when I'm hungry. I get very cranky. And I'm like, yo, pull over. We're going to eat that Burger King. And people pleaded. Pastor Sam, the buffet. I said, I don't care. I have to, have some appetizer or something, because if I eat that, I might die. So we stopped by Burger King. I got a Junior Whopper, 2 Junior Whoppers. And I said, no, that's not going to be able. Let's get 3 Junior Whoppers. So on the way, I ate most of it. And then when we found our guy, I said, hey, we're going to go to the buffet. He's like, no hi? I'm like, no, we're going. You have to use that up, and you're not coming back here anyway. And so we went there, and there was like steak, ribeye, ribs, rice, all these type of delicacies. And I tried. Oh, God, did I try. I interceded for that too. Give me some more space. I could not enjoy the food there. I could not. Why? I wasn't hungry. You see, how do you really turn to God, live for God, not in just times of crisis, but in good times? Well, I think the first lesson the parable teaches us is this. What is it? It's sometimes being hungry is what? Sometimes being hungry is better than, especially at a buffet. Sometimes being hungry is better than full. And if I really look at our life and ask you an honest question, your life might be okay right now. And the question is, and the Bible warns this, all of the Old Testament, do not forget the Lord your God that took you into this land when the land is flowing with milk and honey. To be careful not to forget. If you read Deuteronomy, and you take out and forget, it's like numerous thousands of times, do not forget, do not forget, do not forget the Lord your God when your land is flowing with milk and honey. What does that mean? In times of prosperity, when things are not in crisis, when you're not in bondage, don't forget who brought you to this place. But if we're honest, a lot of us, in our complacency and in our satisfaction of how things are going well in our lives, we forget the Lord. God is looking for people like Job. What did Job say in the famous Redman song? Give and take away. Give and take away. But what? My heart will choose to say, blessed be your name. But a lot of people say, blessed be your name in times of crisis, but in prosperity, a lot of people forget the Lord. They forget the one that brought him to where they're at. And in that case, the way you find out if you've forgotten the Lord, the question is, have you forgotten God? How do you know? Are you hungry for the Lord? Are you hungry for God? Or has that hunger been quenched because of all the other things that's going on in your life? This is not new, people. This is old. I pray today that God once again would empty us of ourselves so we don't forget the Lord. So someone might say, well, Pastor Sam, does that mean my life has to be destitute from in relationship with God? Historically, most of the time, yes. Does my life have to be in the gutter to have a close relationship with God? Historically, most of the time, yes, in Scripture. Because humanity, in their own power and their own will, when things go well for their life, they do not turn to God. But I think that's kind of dumb. Ephesians 1 tells us that every blessing known in the universe is in who? Is in who? Christ. So if you're going after blessing, or you're going after success, that's stupid because that blessing and that success is in Christ. It's in the person of Jesus. It's in the person of Christ. And we forget that. Because we have good things and Christ has brought good things into our life, we forget that. It's Him. It's not you. So does not my life have to be in Christ? No. If you can learn your lesson the easy way. And the parable addresses that next. Now let's go down. Watch this. So, still another stat. Let's read this together. I just got. So, I can't come. Then the master told the servants, go out to the roads and the country and make them come in so that my house will be full. Now, verse 24, I tell you, not. Now watch this. I want to read that to you again. I tell you, not one of those men who were invited will taste of my what? Banquet. You go, that's kind of scary assertion. This is a scary statement to make. Didn't God know that, come on, they were, making hot, sweaty, full relationship bliss? Can God understand that? No. Because you don't do that to your friends. Even God knows that there's tact. There's tact in relationship. You can't be full of yourself and turn your back on a friend and expect them to be like this. Hey, you dissed me. Hey, we're good. Give me a pound. Give me a pound. It don't work like that. When you blow someone off, expect the same in return. When you go, well, isn't God faithful? Yes, God's faithful, but God's not stupid. You go, oh, okay, I try to get that one. You can't pull over anything, God. God knows. And this parable, I think, it's good. It's supposed to examine our relationship with God. It's supposed to examine where we are. If we're using God or we really love God. And most of the time, people just use God like we use people. The truth is, if you don't really love God, you don't really love people. If God's not your friend, most likely people are not your friend. You just use people to get what you want. You use people to get where you need to get to. This is the superficial part of humanity. We're in it for ourselves. So why is God mad? Well, why is God mad? Why is the owner of the parable so filled with such animosity? Well, you know why he did that? He closed the door. You know how the movie next week's going to be the open door? This is the closed door. Because he realized that those people that blew him off were not his friends. They were not his friends. They said they would come, and they, without legitimate excuse, made an excuse because they were full of themselves and forgot him. Now, I know everyone here has a friend or had friends. You guys were close. You guys hung out all the time, especially in college. This happened a lot. And suddenly, the guy and the girl gets a boyfriend and a girlfriend. And then, it's like a magic trick. They disappear. The poker night they used to come to. Hey, you coming? Nah. Why not? I'm out. Click. Yo, you gonna come play ball? Nah. They're just MIA. Missing in action. And it's a pattern. You can pick up this pattern all the time. And when they don't have, and then they break up 3 months later, you come in to poke. Yeah, man, you want to bring up drinks? This dynamic, social dynamic, this phenomenon is, I think, very interesting. One time, a friend did that to me, and then this part of the relationship, when it says, I'm married, I can come, I think talks not about the hot, great part of marriage, but the crappy part. A lot of times in friendship, I call a couple that are dating one time in college, oh, hey, are you guys coming? I called the girl's phone. She wouldn't pick up. So I called her 8 times. Then I called the guy, and the guy got out of the car and said, yo, dude, we're not coming. Why not? I said something stupid. Is that why she's not picking up her phone? He's like, yeah, man, what should I say? I'm like, you're on your own. So in this part of marriage, in this part of the relationship, bad stuff happened. But let me tell you, honestly, one guy took it way too far. It kept happening over and over again. Never be there when we needed him and wanted him. And then, at one fatal moment, his heart was broken after 2 months. And he called me. He goes, and he started to almost tear on the phone. Honestly, to tell you, I'm an INTJ. I have no emotions whatsoever. And sometimes when those things happen, my heart moves, like what was that? But this time, let me just tell you, when this guy was telling me his stop story, I went like this to the phone. You know how when you don't want to listen to people and you go like this? You throw the speaker away from the phone? I did this. I did one of this. And I hung up. And you're like, that's messed up. That's not messed up. What's messed up is every time he hung up on me when he was full. So I said, nah. End call. I wish I had the iPhone. Just end call. And the guy's like, sobbing and all that. I'm like, oh, well. He goes, I had to deal with it alone. You deal with it alone. Why? Because this person was just trying to use me. You go, you should be more understanding. I don't think so. There is no sympathy when you're full of yourself and you don't give anything to anyone but yourself. And then in crisis, again, you do the same pattern. You turn to someone else. That's called effed up. That's why you need Jesus. So, if you want to be in relationship with Christ without times of crisis, when nothing is going poorly and everything is fine, I think the second lesson we learn is simple. What is it? You don't have to what? To learn something. My friend at that moment, or ex-friend, learned something. But he had to lose everything to learn something. What is that called? Stupid. The Lord kept saying, do not forget, do not forget, do not forget the Lord your God who brought you into the land flowing with milk and honey. And then what happened? They forgot. And then what happened? They went into captivity 4 times. And every part of the Old Testament history of God's people, God, why is this happening? And the Lord goes, because you forgot. I told you don't forget. I told you 1,000 times don't forget. Oh, right. In the end of the day, you have to ask yourself an honest question. Is God really someone you love, or God someone you're just using like other people? Because you know what? God's not stupid. God's not dumb. Today, I think it's the day where we have the chance, from the grace of the parable, to become people that don't use God, but come closer to God and say, God, I want to have a relationship with you. I want to learn how to love you. And I know that's hard for me because I'm a human being, and I'm effed up, and I need your grace. But I want to become a person that begins to love you and not use you or anyone else. Become a real friend to you. How many people want that? I want that. That's the people God is looking for. Real friends in a generation where people just use God. Historically, people use God. I want to change that history and become people that love God sincerely and honestly. Not just in times of crisis, but also in times of prosperity. I pray that we would want to become men and women that love God. Amen? Stand and pray together.